Lady Mike. Say hi, Mike.
Hi.
Yeah, drive back out carefully. This is Driving Home the Movie, and we went to see American Ultra, which I totally forgot this was a Max Landis movie, and it kind of makes sense. He's the guy, I forget what actual movies he's done besides this, but obviously he's, Landis from? Like, who did the Lampoon movies, Landis.
Okay.
You know, what's the guy's first name? But it's his son. But he also, you know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, and he also did, Max Landis also did the Superman, Death of Superman. You remember that?
Yes.
That whole thing? Which, to be fair, I still find very funny, but I have, like, some disputes with his opinion on that. But it doesn't really surprise me that he made this movie. So this movie, I actually, from watching the trailer, I was really interested in because it's a cool premise. It's just kind of fun, lots of ways you can go with it. And the premise is that there's a sleeper agent who obviously does not know that he's a secret agent, and who is working at like a convenience store in the middle of nowhere, Virginia. But he's triggered, and then some guys come after him, and suddenly like this like pothead, you know, clerk at this convenience store ends up becoming an action hero and having to deal with the fact that, like, oh my god, it's the night shift and I just killed 2 people really, really easily with like a spoon and soup. What is going on? And you see that in the trailer, in the Red Band trailer at least. And so there were a lot of ways that they could go with that. And I thought that it was an interesting movie. Not necessarily. I felt like there were a lot of ways that they could have done better with it. What do you think?
Yeah, it's got some flaws.
There's a lot of slow parts to it. A lot of like scenes where the same things have kind of already happened. It's mostly in like the end of the second half and then the beginning of the third, where I felt like there were a lot of ways they could have just kept the momentum going, and it kind of slowed down to a halt. Does that make sense?
Kind of, but that was during the time when I went out to get a drink again.
Oh yeah, that is true. But even then, like, but that was a really short part. You went probably the best part, because essentially there was a lot of times when another character, where they'd say exposition, but not in a scene that the main character was in, and then so later on, they have to actually tell the main character, and it's just one of those things where, like, if the dialogue was a little tighter, it wouldn't have felt like we were seeing the same things over and over, because they would have kept the exposition for the scenes where the main character had to know them. That was kind of a problem. But let's talk about the cast, because I'll say this much: the cast is actually all really good. Jesse Eisenburg, which I keep thinking this is gonna be the last time I can have long hair until, you know, because of Superman, and you know, I think he technically has long hair in the but I don't know, like, I'm still trying to figure out if that's supposed to be a wig in Batman v Superman.
I do not know.
I don't know either.
His hair looks really weird in this movie. It looks really weird in Batman v Superman. So
I think it looks faker in Batman v Superman. I think it looks more.
It does look faker in that.
Yeah.
But then again, we didn't see it through an entire movie.
That's true. And then Kristen Stewart. Now I've not seen Adventureland, which is the other movie that she was in with Jesse Eisenburg. But I think this is Kristen Stewart's best movie. I liked her a lot in this movie. I thought that she was one of the...
Yeah, she was really excellent in this movie.
There were a few times when, like, she gets kidnapped in the middle of it. Spoiler, I think you even see it in the trailer, so I don't feel like it's a big spoiler. And a lot of it is just her grimacing, but that's the script. That's not, like, you can't blame her for not saying a quippy comeback or, like, saying anything, because literally the script is telling her that she has to be tied up to a chair and grimace at the guy that kidnapped her. So that I don't feel so bad about, simply because, you know, Yeah. What?
If we want to go back, if we can go back to Max Landis and the way this movie was directed first, it's very grimy. Everything, like, it feels very like very old. Nothing feels very...
Well, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know yet.
But that's the thing. Like, I don't mind the grime because it's supposed to be, like, they get dirty. The whole scene happens like, the majority of the movie happens in one night.
Yeah.
So I don't mind the fact that they're all grimy and that you're supposed to feel kind of worn out by the end of the movie because it's all happening at, like, a short period of time.
And oddly, the villain of the movie is the only person that really is pristine in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Topher Grace. Essentially what happens is he's doing this new program because Jesse Eisenberg's character was from an old program, and essentially Topher Grace decides, well, he's trying too many times to go out of the town because they just tried to go on vacation. So I'm going to take him out. And the original person in Eisenberg's, like, heading this program that Eisenberg was in, it's Connie Britton who plays the character. She's been on...
What the fuck is that?
What?
The guy's just waving his arm.
Oh, the person in front of us is being weird. Anyway, she's on Nashville, though, and she's been in, like, Friday Night Lights, so if you're a fan of those TV shows, I don't recognize her from anything else. But she's actually really, really damn good. She's up there with one of my favorite parts of the movie, just as someone who essentially they had decided that to close off the program. She had done something arguably very ethical before this movie, way before this movie started, and closed down this program that she didn't think worked, and she ended up making sure he was settled in this town. So when she finds out that her project, you know...
Here's the thing that we don't know. Was this her
choice?
No. Was it her program? It began unethically.
Yeah, but I believe she did start the program. But then the fact that she had closed it down...
Because I didn't know if she started the program or just closed it down and felt bad for everyone who was
I think she was heading it the whole time.
Okay.
But she finds out that Eisenberg's character is going to be killed, so she ends up triggering him, and in order to protect him in some way. And so all these other more dangerous cell agents, I guess, whatever you would call it, go after him and his girlfriend. Again, I think the best thing about this movie is that the characters are played by really good actors. We have Kristen Stewart, we have Jesse Eisenberg. Topher Grace is really good at playing the, like, wormy guy, as if you recall Spider-Man 3.
I've seen him as a wormy...
You say that, but I don't remember.
Before. I don't know when it was. I've seen him in a suit and try to worm himself out of situations.
There was a movie that he was in where he plays, like... It's something... I think you're right, but I never saw the movie, but where, like, I want to say, like, Harrison Ford's in it, and Harrison Ford is, like, the old guy that he's trying to show up or whatever. It's really, I don't remember exactly, but I think there is a movie where he tries to, like, show up a guy at the same business he's at, or he's, like, the new guy coming in and he's supposed to be replacing the old guy that's being pushed out. I don't remember. But no, he plays a lot of characters like this, and it fits well with his, like, smarmy, I feel like I've gone up by my bootstraps, even though he clearly didn't. John Leguizamo's in this for a little bit. He played the drug dealer. Oh yeah. Let's see. Walton Goggins is in this, and it took me forever. He plays one of the main assassins, who we will get to as far as the characterization. But he was in. I'll just look it up because it will be faster than me trying to guess. He was in Dang it. Give me a second. Filmography. Actor. Justified. He was in the show Justified. He also was the guy on Community who was the will enforcer for Pierce, remember?
Yes.
Or he was totally like, and then at the very end he was like, oh man, you guys, oh man, this is amazing. That guy.
Yes.
It took me forever, and it was only after, I didn't even realize it until I looked up IMDb before we started the video, and I was like, oh, right, that guy. Who else? Tony Hale, Buster was in this. Yes. And I'm just pro Buster being in movies, so, yeah, and he
also did really well.
He was really good. It was a small role, but...
He's a bit of comic relief, sort of like, because...
Which is bad, though, when it's supposed to be a comedy. You have to admit, this movie, like, yeah, there were some funny moments, but I felt like they could have played up the satire a little more. They could have done a lot more things, but there weren't that many good jokes.
It wasn't very funny.
And that's the thing. I will say this much. I mean, I get that that Topher Grace was doing his job, but his parts were not that funny. So the worminess comes through so much that you're like, oh, okay, I really don't like you, and I get it. That's what you're supposed to do with a villain, but at the same time, it wasn't exactly like his scenes weren't very enjoyable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think this movie ever really felt like a comedy.
It didn't. The only times it did was when, and I found this actually the way that they shot it was really good. Was when Kristen Stewart's character comes on the scene after he kills the two guys, and she's like, what the hell? And he's like in the background, hiding behind a pole, just going, I don't know!
Yes.
That was a great moment where...
Jesse Eisenburg has a lot of good, funny reaction lines.
Yeah, there were a lot of good moments, like, especially early on, where it's like, but that's the thing, you put normal people in these, like, crazy situations, that's where the most of the humor came from. Also the part with Leguizamo's house, where they're like, oh, I know him! We're fantasy football buddies, and Leguizamo was like, why the hell am I not in your favorite? That was a funny bit, and if it was like another actor, it probably wouldn't have been that funny, but they were able to play it up, despite the fact that everybody has guns in that scene. So I'm trying to think if there are any other actors that we should say good things about.
We talked about Kristen Stewart.
Yeah, there aren't really.
Jesse Eisenberg did really well as someone who is dealing with...
Lavelle Crawford and Sam Malone played the two guys that Leguizamo's buddies with. Though they have really small parts, but again, it was like one of the funnier scenes, so I really liked that part. That's really it. So I guess, should we just get into spoilers, or is there anything else you want to say before? Would you suggest people go to see this movie? I think it's a solid rental for me.
Yeah, it's a solid rental. If you want to rent it, it's definitely rentable.
I think it's very much a Netflix movie. I think you could easily throw this on Netflix when it comes up and when you get bored and watch it then. But I don't think you'd really need to see it in the theaters. I don't think I will ever need to watch this movie again, to be quite honest.
I can agree with that, but I thought it had pretty good action, so I would watch it again, but it's not like one that I'm going to, just
seek out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seek out to see again.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know if you can watch it for free, if you can rent it, if you can get it on Netflix in a few months. Well, not in a few months, in like a year.
I'd say it's a solid matinee film.
If you can, maybe a matinee. We'll see.
But one thing, it does remind me, I said this in the theater, a lot of Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, well, there is a scene towards the end that is very, very Hot Fuzzy. There's also some elements of, there's one scene in particular that feels like it's pulled directly from Zombieland, and considering Eisenberg was in Zombieland, it's hard to disconnect from that. I will say that whole thing, and I forgot to bring it up when we were talking about before, one of the better directing parts is it feels like nearly one whole shot. There are a lot of long shots in that big final showdown scene, and like a few of them, it's clear like, oh, they pan up to a sign, and then they pan down, and then he's doing more stuff. I'm like, well, that was a cut, but for the most part, there were a lot of like really where it's supposed to feel like one long action shot, and I can appreciate when movies try to do that.
The action was directed in a way that you could always tell what was happening, even when it was really fast action.
Yeah, I will say I looked away a lot because there was a lot of blood and gore and stuff, and I can't handle a whole lot of that.
Yeah, if you want to see...
Like, so much blood splurting. There were a few slow-mo parts where I'm like, did that need to be in slow motion?
There's one part where you could see through a guy's stomach.
Yeah. There's another where you see, like...
It's not super gory, it's just that, it's sort of like... action movie gore.
There was at least there were two times at least where they made sure to slow motion so you saw the bullet move, and I'm like, I don't really need to. I know that the bullet's been shot off. I don't really need to see that. And
they don't go full Tarantino with the blood, but there are some big splatters, I will say that.
Yeah, I will agree. So yeah, definitely I would say if this is the kind of movie that you enjoy, where it's a lot of blood, a lot of action, a good amount of humor about it, trying to take something with a twist. I don't know if it quite succeeds in what it's trying to do, but it is a movie that if you're into this kind of movie, it's at least worth turning on Netflix. Yeah, but I don't think it's worth the big screen. You say matinee. I don't even think it's worth a matinee. I think you can wait for this one. So with that, let's talk spoilers. So the one thing I will say about this movie is that I kind of wish that Kristen Stewart's character did not end up being
damseled a bit.
Not just that, but the handler.
Yeah.
I like the fact that she knew what she was talking about, and I like the fact that she ends up kind of rescuing herself.
Wait. You don't like that she ended up being his handler?
Well, this is the thing. I liked the idea of her having her reaction at the beginning is so much funnier. When you think that she had no idea what's going on. It's a lot harder to get what her reaction actually was in that first scene, after you know that she actually knows that he's capable of doing this. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But that being said, I do like the idea of her. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with how they wrote her. I like a few things about it. I like the fact that she was trying to get them out. That she was like, nope, I'm going to climb into the air vents because that's better than sitting here and waiting for him to decide to kill us because we're full of monkey venom or whatever he thinks we are. But yeah, so
monkey virus.
Monkey virus, yeah. I do enjoy the fact that the government decided to trick people into turning Eisenberg and his girlfriend in, and also the woman that was behind the project, by saying, oh yeah, they have like a monkey virus. So, you better stay away from them. Don't hide them out.
One of the things that doesn't make sense about this movie to me is that this whole giant government operation that everyone went along with eventually gets to the point where it's about to blow up a small town with a missile. Yeah, that was really dumb. And there was also and I guess it was supposed to be oh, this guy's ego is big enough that he would do this because he doesn't want to admit defeat. And he thinks he's gonna get away with it. Sort of this is the totally sane actions of a man completely in control of what he's doing. So again, I don't know if we've said specifically besides me just talking about it, but yeah, it turns out that Kristen Stewart's character, it wasn't just that it was a girl that he met after he got placed out of the system. She was actually his handler and was supposed to, after the project was done, they ended up erasing his mind or his memories of the majority of everything that went on. Erasing it. They sort of just locked it away, I guess.
Yeah, they don't really explain, but
I don't know what their original. I guess they were trying to make super ultra agents or something, and the program was deemed not working out because there were too many failures for too few successes.
And like
so
he was the one that worked, but it was messing with his mind too much, so they cut off the program. And so then she was supposed to place him, and instead of just letting him go, she ended up going rogue, essentially, and just deciding to become this girl in this town. Which I don't mind, but I like the idea more of her having to deal with all of this as a complete civilian. And that would have been really interesting to me.
Yeah,
but that's just...
she was much more interesting when she was just a civilian.
And I liked Kristen Stewart's performance, but I felt like that was something that they didn't necessarily... Like, I thought it was more interesting when she was kind of doing everything on the fly. I did like the fact that she ended up basically rescuing herself. She ended up having the wherewithal to grab the paper clips. But like, here's the thing. I think you saw this part where she was in the big tent where they were doing all the operational stuff, and she ends up trying to escape, but she only takes out like 3 people, and it was kind of a pointless scene. Or they could have like combined that with like the earlier scene where she was just grimacing. There was a lot of that where they would cut to that tent, and it would be Kristen Stewart grimacing at Topher Grace's character, and then
they say
being angry at each other.
Then they reveal to the audience what the next stage in their plan is.
Yeah, there were so many
up the town, or it's like.
Or there were just times when they're like, we've had him cited, and I'm like, I didn't need to see this. This is stuff that could have been cut. And it felt just like extra stuff in a movie that needed to have better pacing in that part. That's what I was kind of talking about earlier, where I felt like there were scenes that really could have been cut down, where like I don't need to see her tied up again. That seemed like that was annoying to me.
I also liked the movie better when Kristen Stewart and Jesse Eisenburg were working together.
Yes, I was thinking that even in the middle before she gets captured, like every time they have a moment together and are on screen together, it is so interesting, and they have a lot of chemistry and they work really well. And all the jokes land better when the two of them are together. Like the whole bit where, and this was a part that could have easily not have been as funny as it was, but where he figures out that she's the handler, and he runs in the car and he locks the driver's side door, like so, and she's like knocking on it, and then she runs around, and he doesn't have the time to lock the door, and so she just jumps in
to the passenger seat.
And it's a moment that's really funny because he's incredibly upset and thinks that he's been betrayed by her, and he just he's clearly trying to literally lock her out, and then it's only like when it's too late does he realize, oh wait, yeah, I should have locked all the doors to the car.
Not just the driver door.
I'm probably overselling this, but it was one of those moments where, again, these two actors are actually really funny together, and I enjoyed them a lot. Those were like the moments that were really entertaining to me.
And breaking them up didn't really work well for the movie.
No, it really didn't. I mean, I get that it kind of, like, they needed to give him a reason and blah, 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 but it wasn't that... Isn't
a whole, team of assassins trying to kill you enough of a reason?
Yeah. I will say I did like that hallway scene with her and Topher Grace where she ends up again kind of trying to fight him a little bit. She gets in a lot of good punches.
Also the scene on the phone with the surrender agreement.
Oh yeah, that was funny. Again, I wish there were more moments like that where a guy who clearly is not
doesn't know what the protocol is or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I was expecting more of that, and there really wasn't as much of that as what I was hoping for, where he's just so are you
So is there some paperwork to sign?
Yeah, it's because you're surrendering because I killed all your guys. I was hoping for more of that stuff, and there was a lot of like, yeah, there's a lot of filler, and I almost feel like the fight scene in the grocery store went on too long. I was kind of I could have like handled one less guy for him to fight, you know, if they cut out like a scene in the middle of him. Does that make sense?
True. Maybe, like, I like the one with the firework and the smoke, and he takes him out with the mallet. Maybe the two early on, I think, are two that you need.
Yeah.
But the guy with the cleaver, the guy he killed with the cleaver in the kitchen department,
you could cut down. I was looking down at that point. He just cleavered him in the head. Oh, okay. Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
And you see it from, like,
back behind
he's
him.
walking towards you, and he cleavers the guy in the head, and then the guy, like, you don't see the guy taking the cleaver to the face. You just see the outcome of it, because you know, he's falling towards the camera.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then it ends with him proposing right before they get tasered by the police. Which, to be fair, Kristen Stewart gets like one of the last really funny moments of the movie where she just gets proposed to. Her fiance gets tasered, and she goes, "Oh, come on, you guys, we could have had a moment." And then they taser her, and she falls over. And I was like, "See, that's really funny. I was expecting more laughs like this." And there really weren't that many. But yeah, at the end, what's her name? Lassiter, the one who was doing the original program, was trying to help Eisenberg's character. She gets pulled in by her boss, who is Bill Pullman. Oh yeah, Bill Pullman's in this movie. And basically Topher Grace gets shot by Bill Pullman because. Yeah, I love that Topher Grace does the whole, "I'm a go-getter. I did this, and if it had been successful, you would have been thanking me." And then he gets shot because this movie is like, "Fuck you. We are not going to reward the guy who decided to ask for forgiveness instead of ask for permission."
And nearly blow up an American city.
Yeah, well, town. Let's not go overboard. But And then Bill Pullman's like, "I'm going to kill you unless you have a good reason to tell me that this is a win for you." And she basically says, "It's a win because my operative, who has been, a sleeper for how long, just took down how many people. He is your asset.
How many of your super agents?"
Yeah, exactly. He is your asset here. You really want to kill him now? You really want to take him in and kill him now when he is clearly way better than anybody that Topher Grace's character was working on. So this is what we can get to. The politics of this movie, as far as mentally ill people, is not great. Now, I am a superhero fan. I am a fan especially of DC Comics and of Gotham and the Bat Family. I am well aware that the way that a lot of the books that I like and a lot of the mythos that I like treats mentally ill people is not good. I can understand people's criticism of that. This movie is not great about it either, because there is a lot of like, see, it was okay
that he killed all those people because they were mentally ill people.
It was more like
who caused arson.
It was more like Eisenberg's character. Now, here's the thing: they do recognize the fact that they were basically damaging greatly Eisenberg's mental health. They were saying that they were driving him insane with this program, which, by the way, makes me think, like, so what happens at the end of the movie when he becomes a super agent or whatever? Is it just okay that because he's aware of it? I don't know. They don't really explain that, but the whole thing about, like, well, these other people are way more volatile. What's wrong? Like, why are they more volatile than my Wiseman program? Because that was the name of Eisenberg, what Eisenberg was in. And it turns out, it's because they were mentally ill. I don't know. There's so essentially what it was Jesse Eisenberg killing a lot of mentally ill people, including a guy who just laughs a lot, whose name was, Laugher. Yeah, his name was actually Laugher. And he laughs a lot, and he likes to hurt people.
I think he liked fire. I thought he was the guy that was the arson guy.
He wasn't just arson, though. He just really, really liked laughing
Okay.
and hurting people. Even though he did set people on fire. And at the end, I think they tried to quantify that with him, with Eisenberg not killing him, and basically the guy saying, "Oh, you had a better shot," and like, I don't really want to hurt people, or something about you don't have to be told what to do. It was, like I said, the politics of this movie, as far as how they treat mentally ill people, is questionable. As far as the female characters of this movie, it's not that they did an amazing job. This isn't like Mad Max level of amazingly really cool women and like lots and lots of female characters. There are basically two. The two that they did could, like, let's just be honest. The lady, the CIA lady who's helping Eisenberg throughout this could have been a male character. The fact that she's played by a woman is cool. You know what I mean? It's not really a gendered role, except for the fact that Topher Grace is an asshole to her. And calls her an old bitch, like, several times. And then, but both of the female characters I liked. I liked the way that they were given pretty significant roles. I still think that that Kristen Stewart's character could have been given a lot more to do, especially into the third act.
Especially when you find out she's a CIA agent. I mean,
yeah, at least even as a handler, and yeah, she does have a few moments where she's obviously had some training, but again, it doesn't really tie up to that first third of the movie, and it feels like a different character. Like, the only times, I wish that there were more hints that there was something else going on with her, because it doesn't feel like there are any other hints. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah, and in fact, I think like the first time you get a hint of that is the time that
she's almost about to reveal it.
Yeah.
So, and that was the thing. It was like, well, that doesn't really tie into what she was before. And if they had I think I would have been okay with the reveal a little more if it wasn't for the fact that, like, if they hadn't made it seem very, very definitive that she doesn't know what's going on at all. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah.
If they had given more hints about... The only thing that I thought that was a hint was when they get taken in after he kills the two guys, and the town cops are questioning him, and she says something like, it's self-defense, and he goes, so what? You're his girlfriend, his maid... You're his lawyer, ha ha ha. It's like, well, she's used to being his handler. So I was trying to think if there's another word for it, but essentially, like, she's going back into that role again. But even at the very beginning, like, this whole thing starts off where he's going to propose to her, and they're going to go to Hawaii, and they can't. But his nerves get so high that he can't leave town, and that was all because they had like triggered it in his brain that he can only stay in this town. But she seems really pissed off about it, and you'd think that she would be like upset, but not like lashing out at him about it if she knew why.
She knows he's been mentally programmed that he can't leave the
exactly
town.
So I mean, yeah, she could get mad about it, but it seems weird that she does seem like bitter at him about it. And maybe they were trying to make it where she knows that, but she thought that he could get past it, and that's why she's mad, but that doesn't really come across.
No.
Not at all. Alright, so again, I think it's a good enough movie that if you want to see it in Netflix, or if you want to rent it, if you can find it on matinee, I guess, if you really, really want to see this movie, I don't think it's necessarily worth a matinee. What, you got any final thoughts?
I thought it was good. I think it's kind of a matinee film, because I think there's nothing really worth seeing it on the big screen, but I think it's a good enough movie that you could see it on a big screen.
I will say, we got... What other movies do we have out right now that are worth checking out. I mean, there are a few things that were still in October or in August, but yeah, I mean, if you really want to see something for cheap in September, considering that I don't think there was much going on this next month, it might be worth your while to check it out.
Coming up, I mean,
I can't think of any. Yeah, and I've heard the same thing from other people where they're just like, nothing looks good.
you've got the Hunger Games and Star Wars.
The Hunger Games and Star Wars are like end of the year.
That's still
All right.
near.
So Katie and Mike, justplainsomething.com, and we'll see you later.